2, 3, 4.
What if you could go back in time as a whole new person and possibly change history forever?
This is the only Stephen King novel I've ever read, and it's got a very unique title, 11/22/63. Do you know why that date's famous? Picture it, November 22nd, 1963. Shots ring out, loud, in Dallas, Texas. Lee Harvey Oswald shot and assassinated the President of the United States, John F. Kennedy. This story is about the opportunity that two men have to travel back in time and try and change history. This incredible story starts off with Jake Epping. He's a burnout teacher who has nothing going his way, and he ends up in the diner of the local man named Al. And while he's there, Al goes into the back room and then comes back out, and he looks older and sick. And Jake's like, what's going on? So he confronts him. This is when Al divulges his ultimate secret. The storeroom in his restaurant is actually a time portal to 1958. Of course, Jake is taken aback and doesn't believe him. So he has to prove it. Al explains to Jake that once you go through the portal, that you always end up in the exact same spot, right there where the diner would eventually be, in 1958. The same people are standing around, the same cars, the same building. It's always the same. And no matter how long you stay there, if you stayed 5 minutes, 3 hours, or 7 years, when you come back to present time through the portal, you've only been gone for 2 minutes in present time. So now Al's dying of lung cancer, and he needs someone to try and do this for him. So Jake, who is skeptical, of course, at first, says, fine, whatever, I'll see. Boom, walks through the portal. Like, oh my gosh, what's happening? What Jake comes to realize, though, is that the portal is actually like a magic time eraser. So even if you go and live there for 2 years and accomplish all this stuff, if you decide to go back to present time, which in the book is 2011, everything's erased. You'd have to start all over again. That makes it a lot harder. So on top of everything else, Jake is not convinced, because there's a lot of conspiracy around whether or not Lee Harvey Oswald actually killed the president. So he's not quite convinced, and so he spends several trips just trying to prove that he's actually guilty. He follows him around. He gets an apartment underneath him. He gets spy utensils to listen in and try to figure out if he actually is the one that does it before he can even commit to carrying out this mission. And then, on top of it all, he's been living there for a while. He gets a job at this new school in Texas. He's ready to set out on this mission. And he meets Jody and falls madly in love. And so the plot thickens. But can't you see how exhilarating the thought of changing this would be? What if you went back? Maybe you could save Martin Luther King Jr. You could save the president. You could stop the Vietnam War. You could save millions of lives. It's very tempting to want to try for. But then there's the darker side. Are things inevitable anyway? Even if you stopped one thing, would it eventually happen anyway in a different kind of setting? Would something else take its place? Would it be worse? Would there be the butterfly effect? Overall, in my opinion, 11/22/63 is one of the best well-written time travel books mainly because it has this sense of believability in a way that you can't explain unless you read it. It's very long. It is a very thick book, and I typically listen to audiobooks on Audible, and it was 30 hours, but it was worth it. Very good. If you are interested in this type of book, I highly recommend it. Don't you want to know if he succeeded? Got to read the book. 11/22/63 by Stephen King.
So, if you could go back in time, would you change history? Would you? Would you?